All right, I have a genuine question for you guys. Is Donald Trump out of his damn mind? Because he is using his dwindling campaign time to call into Fox and Friends and detail how he's suing CBS News for $10 billion due to their 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. Not only is this unprecedented, not only is this completely effing unhinged, but it is an absolutely insane use of dwindling campaign time. We have 3 days left in the campaign, and Donald Trump is using that valuable time to rant about Liz Cheney, saying she needs to be dropped in the middle of a battlefield with 9 rifles pointed at her face. He's using this dwindling campaign time to launch lawsuits against the media for doing interviews with his opponent and to make up lies about immigrants, as he's been doing this entire time. With 3 days left to go, we have no time to waste. Make sure you drop a like and make sure you're subscribed so we can hit 700,000 before the end of November. Now, let's jump in with this first clip of Donald Trump talking about how CBS needs their license taken away. Listen.
And so on behalf of the people, we sued 60 Minutes and CBS, and we think their license should be taken away. I think it's the greatest breach. I think it's the greatest insult to the American citizens. Think of it. They ask her a question during an election, right up to the election, and the question is that of a very stupid person. That was her answer. And it was so bad, and they use the word salad. I hate it. I just don't think there's something about it. It's not good. It doesn't fit me. But I'll tell you, they call it word salad. It was just a series of words that weren't connected, and there was something wrong with her. And they saw that. And so what they did is they took it out, and they put a different answer in, entirely different, okay? Which was a better answer, normal. In other words, this was not a great answer, but it was an answer at least. And they went with it, and that's what they broadcast. I think it's the biggest scandal in broadcast history. What they did, nobody's ever heard of this before.
Okay, so a few things. Number one, Donald Trump's lawyers are going to blow up their career trying to take such a ludicrous case to court. Number two, Donald Trump in this clip says that VP Harris is known for her word salads and known for not being able to string sentences together. Total projection. Even Donald Trump's biggest supporters would watch a clip of them side by side and be able to see that VP Harris is more articulate 10 out of 10 times. Also, with what he's talking about right here, what CBS News did is cut out 15 seconds of an answer for pacing, which is very common and which happens all the time. Even Fox News has released unedited versions of Donald Trump's interviews, and Fox News has cut certain sections out or certain questions out. And listen, I hate Fox News, but they're not doing it to interfere with the election. Even when Fox News cuts stuff out, it's most likely for pacing, or it's most likely for time constraints. Even this article reads, Fox News edits Trump interview clip to remove muddled response to Jeffrey Epstein question. The right-wing network has a history of trying to protect Trump from himself by selectively editing interviews. And this came out months ago, months before Kamala even entered the race. Fox News edited out a section in a recent interview where Donald Trump appeared to retreat from a promise to declassify files related to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, this is an actual case of trying to interfere with the election, but again, most of the time when CBS or CNN or even Fox News are cutting out 15 seconds of a question, it's going to be for pacing. I have interviewed congressmen and congresswomen before where they give me a 4-minute long answer, which would lose everybody's attention, so I turn that 4-minute answer into a 2-minute answer, and it's a lot more effective on social media. Also, I do want to point out that the entire lawsuit is total BS. He claims to be bringing it, quote, on the behalf of the people, but the media is the one working on the behalf of the people. The media is the one that exists as a guardrail within our democracy, the same way our courts do, the same way our elections do. All of these things exist as a referendum on politicians that are working for the public, as a referendum on these politicians and their ability to govern. So when Donald Trump is trying to attack the media, attack our courts, attack the infrastructure that allow our elections to happen, it's because he's trying to remove the guardrails around him. That is absolutely, absolutely true. Even this article reads, Donald Trump sues Fox News over 60 Minutes interview. interview. Former President Trump filed a lawsuit Thursday against CBS demanding $10 billion in damages. Is this guy out of his mind? Over the network's 60 Minutes interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. The suit was immediately ridiculed by First Amendment attorneys who called it, quote, frivolous and dangerous. And the irony is, Donald Trump pretends to be the candidate in favor of the First Amendment, in favor of the Constitution or the American flag, when he is the antithesis of all of those things. He has said he wants to terminate the Constitution. He wants to jail people for burning the American flag, which is our First Amendment right. I would never burn an American flag, but that is our First Amendment right. He also now wants to sue the media, attack the media, strip them of their broadcast licensing. In a complaint filed to the U.S. District Court in the Northern District of Texas, Trump's legal counsel claimed CBS's 60 Minutes interview with Harris and the associated programming were, quote, partisan and unlawful acts of election and voter interference. I swear to God, if this court case gets heard before Donald Trump's January 6th case gets heard, I am going to absolutely freak out. Donald Trump seems to get away every single time because his tactic, taught to him by Roy Cohn, is to launch a countersuit to muddy the waters. The lawsuit also says Trump is seeking for the network to, quote, publicly release the full, unedited transcript of the interview. They already did. The only reason this became a, quote, scandal in the first place is because CBS released the entire interview and MAGA realized that 15 seconds of an answer were cut out. Let's jump on to this next clip of Donald Trump continuing to talk about Liz Cheney and doubling down on his violent daydreams.
And all I said is, let's see how she does. I said, put a gun in her hand, then let her go out and let her face the enemy with a gun in her hand, and they'll have 9 people or 12 people or 100 people. I said, let's see how she stands up, because I say she wouldn't have the guts to do it. You know, you have a lot.
Number one, this man dodged the draft, so him talking about someone else not having the guts to do it is absolutely rich. Number two, the irony of Donald Trump saying that other people are warmongers when he had his generals draw up an Iranian invasion plan just so he could flex it to Kid Rock and other celebrities is insane. But also, the major point here is that this is despicable rhetoric to use 3 days before an election. He's trying to run defense for his comments right here, but even his defense of it is just insane. How would she like if we dropped her in the middle of a battlefield with 9, maybe 12, maybe 100 rifles pointed at her? That's an insane thing for somebody to say. You know, let's compare this to how VP Harris is speaking this morning.
I also want to speak to the comments that have been recently made by the Speaker of the House. It is just further evidence of everything that I've actually been talking about for months now about Trump's intention to implement Project 2025. We have talked repeatedly, and the American people know what's in it. We've talked repeatedly about their intention to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, now to get rid of the CHIPS Act. And let's talk about manufacturing, which is a critical issue for many of the states that will make the difference in this election. Donald Trump, when he was president, lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. We have created over 700 new manufacturing jobs. It is my plan and intention to continue to invest in American manufacturing, the work being done by American workers, upholding and lifting up good union jobs, which are good paying jobs, and doing the work of investing in American industries.
I'm going to lose my effing mind. Sorry to cut VP Harris off. I'm going to keep playing this clip, but just listening to this made me lose my mind simply due to the fact that VP Harris is doing such a good job talking about policy, talking about union workers and manufacturing jobs. She's able to put sentences together in a quick and coherent way, and somehow the race is still a coin flip. Sorry for pausing it, but I'm just losing my mind because VP Harris is killing it and it's somehow still a coin flip.
Upholding and lifting up good union jobs, which are good paying jobs, and doing the work of investing in American industries, including our industries of the future. That is the way we are going to win the competition with China for the 21st century, and that is the kind of leadership that America deserves in their president.
She said the words, the competition with China, rather than just saying China, rambling about China. She understands that we are in a global competition that America has to stay at the forefront of. Donald Trump seems to want to undermine all of the alliances that will keep us competitive against Russia and China and Iran. Here's Donald Trump on Fox and Friends saying that the economy is terrible, and it's like, come on. Republicans have no faith in our economy. They have no faith in our country. They think we're a third world nation when right now, most other countries are envious of the American economy. And I understand that things are more expensive. Trust me, I fully understand that. I go to college in Chicago. I live in Indiana, but in Chicago, gas is expensive, things are expensive, but man, none of it's Biden's fault. And also, our economy is recovering very quickly.
And she is doing a terrible job. The world is laughing. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a big deal, very big deal. Actually, couldn't be worse timing for them. So they came up with the worst jobs report, I would say in history almost. I mean, but it goes back many years, where 12,000 jobs. That's like for a little piece of a company. 12,000 jobs were created. 100,000 manufacturing jobs were lost. 150,000 jobs were lost. It's the worst. It's a depression type statement. It was the worst statement I've seen in decades. Just before the election, think of it.
Donald Trump likes to cherry pick one indicator, one number from 1 month when we've been seeing economic recovery for month after month after month, amazing job reports. Also, the stock market's hitting all-time highs, but even most Americans aren't invested in the stock market, so we can look at real wage growth outpacing inflation. I've seen people in the comments say they're making more than they ever have, and that's good because things cost more than they ever have, so that follows. But overall, wage growth is outpacing the growth of inflation, and that's what you want to see. We all want things to be cheaper, of course. The idea that we're nearing a recession or we're nearing some sort of Great Depression, as Donald Trump says, is not true whatsoever, and you shouldn't believe that. I've had friends who think that we're on the verge of a recession since January 21st of 2021, the day that Biden took office. Here's Donald Trump implying that women aren't human beings. Just listen to his words, salads.
That, and he's totally retracted his statement, like, weak people always do. They retract their statements. But he was hit by some of the strongest, not human beings, women. He was hit by the strongest people.
Not human beings, but women. Obviously, Trump wasn't trying to say that women aren't human beings. He's just putting his foot in his mouth right there. But he's talking about Mark Cuban. And this one really annoys me because Donald Trump has said the most incendiary remarks about Jewish Americans, Muslim Americans, women in America, Black Americans, Latino Americans. I could go down the list, but we'd be here forever. And Mark Cuban says one time that Donald Trump doesn't surround himself with smart and intelligent women, which is true. Donald Trump has admitted he only places attractive women around him. Mark Cuban says one comment, and Donald Trump is trying to latch onto this like it's the second coming of the devil. Same with Joe Biden's garbage comment. Just one comment, and you're gonna lose your mind like that? This is Donald Trump telling the Fox and Friends host that he won't push the big lie because he doesn't want them to lose their positions at Fox News. I think he's referring to the Dominion lawsuit.
And then we had an election that unfortunately didn't exactly go the right way, but that whole thing. I won't talk about it because I want you people to keep your jobs. Okay, people are so afraid. People are so afraid to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about an election, so I won't do it. You three guys, if you lost your jobs, I would be the most afraid. Can you imagine? Say I cost those three people their jobs. This is the worst. That would be the worst thing I think I've ever done in my entire life. Anyway,
that's the worst thing you've ever done in your entire life, is losing your propagandists their jobs?
There aren't too many like you. We have to keep you around, so I won't talk about it. But look,
there aren't too many people who will be such sycophants, such brown-nosers for Donald Trump, but a few things. Donald Trump says they don't like when you talk about an election. No. You can talk about the election all you want. In fact, you were able to legally question the results of the election. You still are, as you do every day. In fact, it is totally illegal and even fine to challenge the results of the election in court. You went to 60 different courts. That is your right. But what is not okay is to use these lies and use your position as the president of the United States, which you were, to leverage your power and try to pressure other officials into changing votes. It's not okay to use these lies to pressure Mike Pence into overthrowing the election results. It's not okay to use these lies as the basis of an electoral fraud scheme with John Eastman. So there's a difference between talking about an election and relentlessly laying the groundwork to try to steal the election yourself. This AP News article is really important. I want to read this before we watch the next clip. It reads, Trump is using election lies to lay the groundwork for challenging the 2024 election results. You guys are probably all saying, duh, but this actually goes into detail about how he's doing it. Donald Trump has spent the past few months laying the groundwork to challenge the results of this election if he loses. At rally after rally, he urges his supporters to deliver a victory to too big to rig. I hear that all the time at MAGA rallies. Telling them the only way he can lose is if Democrats cheat. He has refused to say, repeatedly, for years, whether he will accept the results regardless of outcome. Usually he says, only if it's free and fair, which he is the ultimate decider of. Quote, the only thing that can stop us is the cheating. It's the only thing that can stop us, he said at an event in Arizona late Thursday night. Now, in 2020, Trump prematurely declared victory from the White House. He launched a legal and political effort to overturn his loss to Democrat Joe Biden that culminated in the storming of the Capitol by his supporters on January 6th, and Democrats fear he may do the same thing. This year, he is backed by a sophisticated election integrity operation built by his campaign and the RNC that has filed more than 130 lawsuits already and signed up more than 230 volunteers being trained to deploy as poll watchers and poll workers across the country on election day. This is absolutely terrifying. Here's a look at Trump's strategy. We'll just skim through this really quickly. Trump is claiming without evidence that Democrats allow millions of migrants to enter the country illegally and vote. So he's trying to put mechanisms in place to prevent this when the facts say it takes years for newcomers to become citizens, and there is no proof of non-citizens being caught trying to vote. In fact, when one non-citizen was caught trying to vote, he was immediately arrested, which is good because it shows the system is working as intended. Any voter fraud is immediately caught, and it should be caught. We want it to be caught. Here is Donald Trump in this next clip saying that he still hasn't even heard Tony Hinchcliffe's Puerto Rico joke, which is total BS. Donald Trump spoke on stage literally 30 minutes after the joke.
People from Madison Square Garden told me they've never seen anything like it in the history of Madison Square Garden. There was love. And it was a great triumph. And by the way, totally peaceful. There were no riots. The police were great, New York's finest. But Madison Square Garden, it was unbelievable. Well, I guess somebody put on a comedian, and he joked. He was a comedian, he joked. He mentioned Puerto Rico.
Someone put on a comedian. Yeah, your campaign asked the comedian to come. And Trump also says, quote, he mentioned Puerto Rico. Oh, he didn't just mention Puerto Rico. He made a lot of Puerto Ricans very angry.
Put on a comedian, and he joked. He was a comedian, he joked. He mentioned Puerto Rico. And all of a sudden, the Democrats, and they are good at this stuff, by the way. That's the only thing they're good at. They're no good at policy. They're no good at government. They're good at other things. They're very good at cheating. But other than that, they're not good at anything. So let me just so they come up, and a comedian put in early in the show as a filler, in all fairness. I guess he said some joke. I haven't heard the joke, but he said some joke, and he mentioned Puerto Rico. All of a sudden, they come out with something about Puerto Rico. Nobody's been better to Puerto Rico than me. I saved Puerto Rico when they had some of the worst hurricanes, really bad. I brought in the hospital ship, the Mercy. I brought in this massive hospital ship.
Keep in mind, people like John Kelly have said that Donald Trump didn't even know Puerto Rico was a part of the United States when it got struck by a hurricane. He didn't even know.
There's nobody, and Puerto Ricans will tell you that, nobody's done more for Puerto Rico than me. They made this one comedian telling one little joke early in the show when nobody had even started going into the arena practically. They made this comedian, and they made the whole weekend, and they took out this gorgeous, unbelievable, patriotic evening, and they sort of stained it a little bit by a comedian that I have no idea who he is. He's a man that was put there by very good people and well-meaning people. He mentioned Puerto Rico, and they made it like a big deal.
Again, he didn't just mention Puerto Rico. He made a racist joke at a political rally, and I've said this a few times. Racist jokes are not okay, but edgy jokes are. There's a lot of shows that I watch where there are edgy jokes. I mean, I watch Family Guy or Rick and Morty or whatever show you want where they make edgy jokes, but you can't take those jokes to a political rally where the people there are already racist. I use this analogy in one video, but when I'm watching Family Guy alone, I know that Family Guy is meant to make fun of racist people. The creator, Seth MacFarlane, is a liberal. I know that for a fact, and he has said before, he is making fun of racists. But when I'm watching that same show with my Trump-supporting friends, they're laughing at the actual racist jokes, not the people it's making fun of. So that's what Tony Hinchcliffe did. He came with his normal edgy material. Even Jon Stewart came out and said he's a fan of Tony Hinchcliffe and he thinks Tony Hinchcliffe is funny, but you can't bring this edgy material to a rally where there are already racist people predisposed to racism. For example, you're going to make fun of Puerto Rico saying it has garbage, or it's an island of garbage, when Donald Trump actually tried to delay aid. Trump delayed $20 billion in aid to Puerto Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria report fines. And this article is more than 3 years old because this happened in 2017, but Donald Trump actually thinks Puerto Rico is garbage, so Tony Hinchcliffe wasn't really joking much there. We have another clip of Donald Trump talking about women voting differently than their husbands. This man is the one who wants to protect women, but just doesn't trust them enough to make their own decisions.
I'm so disappointed at Julia Roberts because I look, and she's going to look back on that and she's going to cringe that, did I really say that? It doesn't say much for her relationship, but I'm sure she has a great relationship. But the wives and husbands, I don't think that's the way they deal. I mean, can you imagine a wife not telling a husband who she's voting for? Do you ever hear anything like that? Yeah. Even if you have if you had a bad relationship, you're going to tell your husband, it's a ridiculous ad. It's so stupid. She's going to look back someday and she's going to say, did I really make that? You know, they're into this thing.
All right, let me get this straight. Donald Trump has cheated on Melania repeatedly, even when Melania was pregnant, even when Melania just had Barron. But lying about who you're voting for, or at least hiding about who you're voting for, crosses the line. You can hide who you're sleeping with, but just not who you're voting for. And Donald Trump also says that Julia Roberts is going to cringe when she looks back at that statement, or he implies that she's going to come around. But Donald Trump literally just implied that she had a bad relationship right there. What kind of relationship do you have to have? Blah, blah. I'm sure Julia Roberts is going to come around after you're talking about her relationship. I'm sure. Absolutely, she'll come around. Either way, if you enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.